The Great Ruler Episode 120 Explanation. Brother Wu Ling, Brother Wen. Mu Chen stared at the decent-looking youths before him as he smiled as he cupped his hands towards Wu Ling as well as Wen Busheng next to him. I have to thank the both of you this time. The formation of the two sides was important in this fight with Ji Xian. If it wasn't for the fact that he had managed to pull Wu Ling and Wen Busheng to his side, the one that would be fighting today would not have been Ji Xian alone, but his entire alliance. The eyes of that scheming fellow were extremely vicious. The instant he felt that he could deal with Mu Chen if all of them had joined hands together, he would definitely not hesitate. However, the appearance of Wu Ling and Wen Busheng had strengthened the formation of Mu Chen's party. This made Ji Xian's alliance know that even if all of them had attacked, there wouldn't be any benefits today. Thus, those fellows chose to watch from the side as they did not see any advantages. When Wu Ling heard Mu Chen's words, he smiled. Brother Mu is being too polite. If it wasn't for Ying adding fuel to the fire, I would also hesitate a little. Mu Chen was a little flabbergasted as he looked at Wu Ying. Clearly, he never thought that this girl, who had prejudice of him, would choose to help him. When Wu Ying saw his gaze, she snorted in response. Thanks. Mu Chen sincerely thanked her. Wu Ying cast her lips aside. Just when she wanted to mock him out of habit, a smear of redness involuntarily flushed across her face when she saw the gentle smile on Mu Chen's face as she swallowed her words and changed them, that Ji Xian isn't a good guy as well. But if we allow him to carry on pulling people to his side, it will not be advantageous to us. I was thinking for my martial spiritual academy, I was not trying to help a lecher like you. Wu Ying snorted as she pridefully raised her chin. Mu Chen coughed as he was a little embarrassed by the name that Wu Ying was calling him, especially when Wu Ling's suspicious gaze was looking at his direction. Wu Ying blushed even more when she realized her words as she turned her head away in guilt, not daring to look at her own brother. We did nothing to help. Brother Mu is truly hiding deep ability, truly worthy of being the blood calamity of the spiritual road. Wen Busheng laughed as he looked at Mu Chen with interest. Brother Wen is not simple as well. Mu Chen smiled in response as he swept his gaze on Wen Busheng. Thereafter, his gaze stopped at the latter's fair right hand. That hand was exceptionally perfect as it was glittering like a gem, flickering with faint luster. Mu Chen could sense dangerous ripples from his right hand. I'm just lucky. Wen Busheng smiled as he covered his right hand with his sleeve and did not explain much. Mu Chen also wasn't bothered by it as everyone had their own secrets. Perhaps the Great Spiritual Academy tournament will enter the finale in the remaining time left. Wu Ling looked at Mu Chen as he said, in this period of time, perhaps there might be countless powerful teams targeting the top 8 in the rankings. We can't be certain that Ji Xian doesn't have any plots in his retreat this time. Thus, I feel that we can work closer together in the remaining time left. When Busheng nodded his head in agreement. Their reveal this time had angered Ji Xian. If Ji Xian plans to deal with them, it would definitely be troublesome for them. Although they weren't any pushovers, they did not wish to confront with the monstrous Ji Xian at this timing. Mu Chen nodded his head as well. It was always better to have a friend. Seeing as no one had any disagreements, Wu Ling smiled as he took out 3 dark red jade pendants with light circulating on their surfaces. This is the messaging jade that I have obtained from a ruin. If any one of you encounters trouble, all you have to do is activate it and the 2 other jade pendants will be able to sense it. Furthermore, when we are ready, we can also use it as a signal to burn the academy plaques to start the finals. To start the finals, half of the top 16 teams have to burn their academy plaques. The moment this requirement is fulfilled, the top 8 teams would then enter the finals. Mu Chen took a glance at Wen Qingxian, who was behind him, as the 2 of them nodded their heads, before taking a jade pendant from Wu Ling, while Wen Busheng took the other. Ha ha, today's event can be considered an end. We no longer have any reasons to stay here. Seeing as the agreement was made, Wu Ling casually laughed as he made a little chat before bidding his farewell, leading Wu Ying, whose face was still a little red, as they left. After Wu Ling had left, Wen Busheng also bid farewell as he left. Staring at their leaving figures, Mu Chen felt relieved. The paleness that he had been suppressing on his face spread out as his figure staggered a little involuntarily. When his body staggered, Luo Li quickly supported Mu Chen's arm. When Qingxian saw Luo Li's reaction, she quietly withdrew her hand that was extending forth. A charming smile surfaced on her face as she teased, "So you are just forcefully holding yourself up." "Truly, Qingxian," Mu Chen said with a soft voice as he continued, "If the battle went on, it would be tough to end it." He had exhausted too much of his spiritual energy. If they were to carry on fighting, he would have to start fighting for his life. After all, Qingxian was powerful. You don't have to undervalue yourself. Qingxian didn't look that good in your battle as well since he was forced to reveal some of his hidden cards during the last attack. Otherwise, when Qingxian replied. Luo Li nodded her head at Wen Qingxuan's words. The two earth-shattering attacks from Mu Chen could be called perfect. One was revealed, while the other was hidden away. The timing was excellent as well. If it wasn't for that primordial hawk's cry, Qingxian would definitely be heavily injured. Qingxian had concealed his genuine trump card. Mu Chen said slowly as his black pupils flickered with a chill. He had heard the primordial hawk's cry as well, sensing an indescribable danger coming from it at the same time. The danger that he felt far surpassed all those he had faced so far in his generation. Luo Li pondered for a brief moment, before speaking up. "If I am not wrong, there's a high chance that the cry was from the primordial sky dragon hawk, ranked 8 of the myriad beast record." Primordial sky dragon hawk? Mu Chen narrowed his eyes at Luo Li's words as his gaze was a little shaken. No wonder there were movements from the egg of the 9 Netherbird. So that hawk cry actually had such a shocking origin. The primordial sky dragon hawk was ranked 8 of the myriad beast record, 3 ranks higher compared to the 9 Netherbird. In the Great Thousand World, the primordial sky dragon hawk possessed resounding fame. It was a powerful beast compared to the rest. Even sovereign realm experts would be afraid to provoke it. Could it be that Qingxian had ingested the primordial sky dragon hawk soul essence in the past? Mu Chen muttered to himself as his gaze flickered. In the spirit stage of the spiritual energy cultivation path, one had the ability to ingest the soul essence of a spiritual beast. However, there was a limit to the soul essence. After all, when one gets stronger, the soul essence that one had refined before would gradually lose its effect. Thus, many people who had refined soul essences have all lost their effect when they grew stronger. However, it wasn't an absolute situation. When the soul essence that one had refined was powerful to an extent, the power would still be present, becoming a powerful method for cultivators. Take Mu Chen's 9 Netherbird for example. If Qingxian possessed that sort of strength, he should have refined a powerful spiritual beast soul essence when he was in spirit stage. For example, the powerful primordial sky dragon hawk. Naturally, with his strength at spirit stage, it was absolutely impossible for him to refine a primordial sky dragon hawk with his own strength, just like how it was impossible for Mu Chen to refine the 9 Netherbird. Thus, there should be a powerful expert that had aided him. Qingxian's background must be rather complicated. That's highly possible. Luo Li and Wen Qingxian nodded their heads with heavy expressions. If that was the case, then the difficulty of handling Qingxian would without a doubt increase. Mu Chen breathed out a mouthful of air as his gaze became a little shaken. However, there wasn't any fear in his eyes. After all, even if Qingxian possessed the soul essence of the primordial sky dragon hawk, he possessed the power of 9 Netherbird as well. Furthermore, he had a blood-linked bond with the 9 Netherbird, the both of them were similar to a single body. So Mu Chen would be more perfect at fusing with the power of the 9 Netherbird. Certainly, the primordial sky dragon hawk was ranked higher compared to the 9 Netherbird. However, that doesn't mean that it was more powerful compared to the 9 Netherbird. After all, when spiritual beasts reached that level, it would be hard for them to differentiate their levels when they fight. The most crucial point was that 9 Nether was no longer a spiritual beast as she had successfully evolved into the 9 Netherworld bird, rising to the levels of divine beasts. The instant she awakened, she would possess strength comparable to Sovereign Realm. How interesting. Mu Chen pursed his lips as he smiled. He looked at the direction that Qingxian had left as a chill flickered in his eyes, before turning around and left for the opposite direction with a wave of his hand. Seeing his action from below, Xuan, Li Xiantong and the rest followed behind him. Ji Xian, let us see who will have the stronger trump card in the upcoming finals. No matter what, I will beat you this time. Let the grudges from the spiritual road end once and for all in the finals. The battle between Mu Chen and Ji Xian had spread throughout the Great Spiritual Academy tournament in a few days. Everyone was aware of the astonishing battle between the two powerful figures. What made others feel even more astonished was the fact that Ji Xian, who held the numero uno of the point rankings for a long time, had actually retreated from the fight, as the fame possessed by both parties were not equal. Although Ji Xian did not lose the battle as he retreated, it did show the fear he had for Mu Chen had grown to the extent that he would have to be cautious to deal with Mu Chen, even if he had to lose some of his fame. Thus, Mu Chen's fame grew to a frightening extent in just a few days' time. So much so that he was famed to the point that he could rival Ji Xian. At this moment, every single team was well aware of Mu Chen's name, as it was like thunder piercing the ears. Even if the battle between Mu Chen and Ji Xian sparked many discussions, the ripple caused by the battle started to quickly die down as the Great Spiritual Academy tournament entered the most chaotic stage. There wasn't an exact time for the tournament to end, but as long as 8 of the Academy plaques of the top 16 were ignited, the Great Spiritual Academy tournament would enter into the final stage. Because of that, everyone could vaguely feel that the final stage would be approaching soon. The elimination rate of the Great Spiritual Academy tournament was too harsh. Countless teams had participated, those that could successfully ascend to the next stage were only 8 teams. That sort of elimination rate was simply too frightening. That was precisely the reason why this period was the most chaotic moment of the Great Spiritual Academy tournament. The eyes of many teams had turned red in order to fight for points. The result of this was endless chaotic battles, to the point that every single spot of this shattered continent's central region had battles breaking out. All the capable teams had their eyes redden as they hunted for prey. At the same time, without their knowledge, they were already preyed on by teams that were stronger than them when they were searching for prey. In this period of time, there wasn't a definite classification between the hunters and the hunted. As the chaotic battles spread throughout the Great Spiritual Academy tournament, there were drastic changes to the top 16 spots as well. The points were crazily jumping every single moment. Right now, those in the top 8 were all familiar teams. Rank 1, Saint Spiritual Academy, Captain Ji Xian. 108,000 points. Rank 2, Myriad Phoenix Spiritual Academy, Captain Wen Qingxian. 90,000 points. Rank 3, Martial Spiritual Academy, Captain Wu Ling, 83,000 points. Rank 5, Blood Spiritual Academy, Captain Shui Tianhe. 70,000 points. Rank 6, 9 Cauldron Spiritual Academy, Captain Fang Yun. 65,000 points. Rank 7, Undefeated Spiritual Academy, Captain Wen Bushen. 62,000 points. Rank 8, Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy, Captain Mu Chen. 60,000 points. The current top 8 were all occupied by the best 8 teams in the Great Spiritual Academy tournament. Behind the top 8, there were teams frantically dashing towards the dividing line. However, they were short-lived, as they were stunningly buried by the other dark horses and were reduced to merely mediocre. Xuan's team managed to reach rank 10. However, it was tough for them to climb further, as they did not possess any qualification to go into the top 8, even from the fact that the strength of their team was pretty strong. After all, there were too many powerful teams suddenly emerging in this period of time. If it wasn't for the fact that they had been together with Mu Chen, their outcome would also be being buried by the other dark horses. The entire Great Spiritual Academy tournament carried on in the madness. Even if many teams knew that their efforts would all be in vain, they refused to give up so easily. Flames of war expanded throughout the Great Spiritual Academy tournament. Boom! Violent spiritual energy soared up into the sky in these plains as more than 10 human figures charged towards the slender figure with their eyes reddened, unleashing their powerful spiritual energy attacks as they burst forth in waves. Boom! However, there wasn't any effect from their attacks. That slender figure merely took a step forth and there was dark lightning that seemingly flew from his body. Brilliant lightning spread out, sending the dozen or more figures flying back from the impact with blood spurting from their mouths. At the same time, those dozen or so figures drew marks of over 100 meters in length on the ground. Lightning dissipated as a charming face of a youth was revealed. Aside from Mu Chen, who else could it be? He was smiling as he looked at those unfortunate fellows. He made a gripping gesture as 3 academy plaques flew from their sleeves into his hand. Without batting an eye, he took the points as he stared at his academy plaque that had thousands of additional points as he helplessly flung the corner of his lips to the side. He flicked his fingers as he threw back the 3 academy plaques. He turned around after dealing with those fellows. There was a similar battle as well. Luo Li, Wen Qingxian and the rest were surrounded by a dozen or more teams. Although the other party had the advantage in numbers, the outcome was close to being one-sided. Although these teams that were preyed upon by Mu Chen's group had decent strength, it was not on the level comparable to his. Thus, the battle only lasted for a few minutes before it ended. Luo Li, Wen Qingxian and the rest divided the academy plaques and obtained points. That fella Ji Xian is pretty quick in his actions. When Qingxian approached as she gave a glance to her academy plaque with her brows narrowed. There was an increment of over 20,000 points for Ji Xian. His speed of increasing his points was faster compared to them. Shen Songsheng and his team looked at the points possessed by the numero uno of the point rankings as they involuntarily sighed. That frightening amount of points was something that could make those looking at it feel their scalp tingling. Mu Chen looked at Ji Xian's name for a long time, before smiling and said, "No worries, we'll work harder than." When Qingxian shifted her charming gaze towards Mu Chen as she hesitated for a brief moment. "Hey, I will not be taking the biggest share in our collaboration anymore." Mu Chen was startled by her words. "I'm well aware that you are trying to return me the numero uno. But I feel that the points are already sufficient. Right now, your main objective is to surpass him." When Qingxian responded as her fine fingers pointed at the numero uno on the academy plaque. During this period, Mu Chen had given the majority share of the points that they had obtained from assaulting the other teams to Wen Qingxian. Whereas he only obtained a sufficient amount to maintain at rank 8. Right now, the numero uno doesn't mean much. Mu Chen spoke indifferently. When Wen Qingxian saw how indifferent Mu Chen was, she was a little furious as she refused him. "Since you are planning to fight with Ji Xian, you shouldn't be so passive about it. Even if the point rankings don't have much meaning behind it right now, are you okay with him surpasses you by that much? Even if you are okay with it, I'm not." Mu Chen was a little astonished as he looked at Wen Qingxian, muttering how weird she was. Here, he was trying his best to push her up to numero uno and she was unhappy because of it. Shen Songsheng and Li Xiantong exchanged a glance as they spoke out as well. Captain Wen Qingxian is right in her words. If you are not planning to fight with Ji Xian for real, then it doesn't matter if his points surpassed us by this much. But since the fight has already started, then you should suppress the other party with your full strength. Perhaps you are not concerned about the points. But who knows if Ji Xian and his team are mocking you right now seeing your points at rank 8. Seeing as they were taking it so seriously, Mu Chen's mood changed as well as he hesitated for a brief moment, before looking at Luo Li and sought her opinion. "What do you think?" "I trust in your decisions." Luo Li shallowly smiled as she held Mu Chen's hand with her ice-cold hands and said with a soft tone, "But, Mu Chen, I have always considered you to be more outstanding than him. Do you remember what you had said to me back in the spiritual road?" Luo Li's crystal-clear pupils were looking at Mu Chen as she smiled. "You told me at that time that you will bring me to stand in the brightest spot in the spiritual road." Her words heavily struck Mu Chen's heart as he blankly stared at the charming face of the girl. Certain old memories resurfaced from the depths of his mind. At that time, he was still very young and behaved befitting of his age. It was a dark night with a warm bonfire that was lit up. At that moment, he was a little drunk from the alcohol that he had fished out from the tree hole. He held onto the young girl's hand as he spoke directly to her. "I will lead you to stand at the brightest spot in the spiritual road." However, he wasn't able to fulfill his promise as he was expelled from that event. When he left, the young girl's figure looked especially lonely. Mu Chen slowly clenched his fist as a peculiar feeling surged forth in his heart, traveling into his brain. Not knowing when it had started, the blood in his body was boiling. "I'm sorry." Mu Chen responded with a soft tone. Luo Li smiled at Mu Chen's apology as she shook her head. "I wasn't able to fulfill my promise to you in the past." Mu Chen's gaze shifted towards the numero uno on the point rankings. As he stared at the name, a fire blazed in the depths of his pupils. "This time, I will not break my promise. The numero uno of the point rankings is mine." The objective was certainly a problem for Mu Chen's current team to aim for numero uno in the point rankings. After all, there was an enormous distance between their points compared to Ji Xian. Mu Chen was well aware that the huge gap between them wasn't something that could be pulled closer through ordinary means. Therefore, they couldn't afford to use ordinary methods at this point in time. It was a common knowledge to everyone that the top 16 had the most points in the Great Spiritual Academy tournament. Generally speaking, the top 16 teams represented the strongest teams in the tournament. Thus, very few teams had the top 16 as their targets. The majority of the participating teams would search for the teams that they could handle based on their strength to seize points. Few would attempt to target the top 16. They knew that there was a certain degree of danger to it, and thus, they did not aim for those top teams. If Mu Chen wished to chase after Ji Xian, he could only take the risk and hope for victory. As a result, he placed his targets on the top 16 teams that were ranked after the 8, with Shen Sangxin's team aside. Furthermore, Mu Chen no longer collaborated with Wen Qingxian in this mission. He only took along Shen Sangxin, Li Xiantong, Zhu Xian, and Xu Huang for it. He did not even bring Luo Li along as he required her and Wen Qingxian for another task, to cause trouble for Ji Xian. He did not need the both of them to defeat Ji Xian. Based on their strength and the support of their teams, they could definitely cause some trouble for Ji Xian. At least they would be able to greatly decrease their efficiency of gaining points. Generally speaking, it wasn't too wise for them to split up in this period of the Great Spiritual Academy tournament. After all, they could be targeted by the other teams that had teamed up. However, Mu Chen wasn't worried about this factor as he had great confidence with Wen Qingxian and Luo Li. With the two of them uniting, they were a force that not even he could defeat. Therefore, Mu Chen was more assured of them both compared to himself. As for seizing points, that would have to depend on Mu Chen's capability. Violent spiritual energy swept out in the plains. There were a dozen or more figures in the path of the spiritual energy. It was clearly a gang-up as there were over 20 people in the surroundings. As for their target, it was naturally the team that was trapped inside their encirclement. Despite the fact that they were at the disadvantage in terms of numbers, the shocking fact was that the group that ganged up on them was the one slowly losing. SSSSSSSSSS. A sharp explosion of wind roared as a human figure mysteriously appeared. He held a black long spear in his hand. The spear tip was extremely sharp, like a hawk's beak. Even space was torn apart as spiritual energy flowed. That figure had powerful ripples of spiritual energy around him. He had simply charged into the encirclement, breaking the formation as light spears shone. The group that was involved in the encirclement was in chaos. No matter how their captain tried to yell, they weren't able to unite their attacks. That human figure relentlessly pursued them, and in just a few minutes, the majority of the encircling team was wounded by him. Lastly, there was a painful howl as their academy plaque was seized. TSK, did you think that you would be able to hunt us, the demonic vulture spiritual academy, just because you found help? How stupid. That figure halted, revealing his skinny and shriveled body. It was a youth dressed in black robes with a pair of gloomy-looking eyes. He had an aquiline nose as he ruthlessly trampled on a person to the point that blood was spewed from his kick. "Ha ha, boss, we have obtained another 2,000 points." From the rear of that black-robed youth, 4 figures skimmed over. They looked at their academy plaques as they grinned. "If this goes on, we might be able to catch up to Mu Chen, who is at the 8th rank. Mu Chen? HMPH, that fellow has been in the limelight a lot, recently." When that black-robed youth heard that name, he coldly snorted as he spoke with jealousy in his tone. "Hee, boss, you are not weaker compared to him. It was just that we have not encountered him." Otherwise, we would witness for ourselves how powerful Mu Chen is. Hearing the words of the black-robed figure, the 4 other teammates immediately gave praise. Hearing the praise, the black-robed youth's face became a little better. Just when he was about to speak, his gaze suddenly changed as he raised his head, looking at the hillside not far away. There were several figures that slowly appeared in flashes. Ha ha, since you guys want to be witnesses, why don't we make it today? Mu Chen, I'm looking forward to it. A clear and bright laughter resounded from the hillside. A youth with a slender and tall figure appeared in the sight of the Demonic Vulture Spiritual Academy's team. Mu Chen. Hearing that name, not only did the faces of the 4 members of the Demonic Vulture Spiritual Academy drastically change, even the mouth of the black-robed youth was slightly trembling. Mu Chen, we have always minded our own business. What are you trying to do by suddenly appear here? The black-robed youth spoke with a heavy voice as his eyes flashed with alertness. Clearly, the person before him did not come with good intentions. I just want to borrow the academy plaque from Captain Xu Yao. Mu Chen lightly smiled as he glared at the black-robed youth before him. The team before him wasn't a nameless one. Captain Xu Yao of the Demonic Vulture Spiritual Academy was ranked 9th in the point rankings with 40,800 points. The highest ranking that this team of the Demonic Vulture Spiritual Academy had reached their peak was rank 6. However, as the competition became more and more intense later on, they were starting to be surpassed and fell to rank 9 as of today. However, the strength of this team was extremely powerful. Xuan Sangshen's team had encountered them in the past and fought as well. However, they weren't able to gain any advantage from them and they had to retreat. Clearly, this team was the first prey chosen by Mu Chen. Ha ha, so you are after our points. Captain Mu Chen, your appetite is pretty big. Xu Yao furiously smiled. He knew the rules and that those of the top 16 would generally not interfere with each other as each of them was powerful. At this point in time, paying a considerable price just to deal with their team was absolutely unwise. Thus, from his point of view, Mu Chen was blinded by points. Mu Chen did not reply as he smiled, he chose to speak with his actions. He took a step forth as black light exploded on the surface of his body. 7 lightning runes surfaced on his chest and at the same time, a scarlet pillar of light soared up into the horizon from his head, taking the form of a titanic demonic pillar. Mu Chen clearly did not intend to take his time as he pushed his lightning god's physique to its limits from the start and he even summoned the Great Meru demonic pillar right from the start. He planned to end this battle as fast as possible. Go? Mu Chen did not have any expression on his face as he flew out at lightning speed with a stomp of his foot. He hugged towards the empty air before him as the Great Meru demonic pillar fell from the sky. A huge shadow drawn out by the pillar was shrouding towards Xu Yao's team. At his rear, Xuan Sangshen, Li Xiantong, and the rest of his team had also pushed their spiritual energy to the limits as they exploded forth. Seeing the torrential waves of killing intent from Mu Chen's team, the faces of Xu Yao's team turned extremely ugly. With that, spiritual energy that was even more violent compared to before exploded in this region. When the battle ended, huge cracks appeared on the plains that looked like spider webs. The wretched sight was heart-alarming. Mu Chen stood in the sky as the lightning around him had already dissipated. He grasped the air as an academy plaque streaked out, landing in his palm from Xu Yao's sleeve, who was embedded in the cracks on the ground. Mu Chen indifferently took the points from the academy plaque. In an instant, the points in his academy plaque that was roughly around 60,000 grew to 80,000. His ranking also followed as he flew up from rank 8 to 6. Thanks for that. Mu Chen threw the academy plaque back to Xu Yao as he cupped his hands and flew off. Xuan Sangshen and the rest slightly tidied themselves as they followed behind. They had to rush to the location where their next prey was at. As Mu Chen and his team left, Xu Yao gave out an enraged roar. The roar was similar to the roar of a beast. At the same time, Mu Chen defeated Xu Yao. In another location in the central region, several figures stood in the sky. It was Ji Xian's team. Captain, the points of Mu Chen's team have suddenly soared. They are currently at rank 6, behind Ji Xian, the youth named Mu Feng said with his brows narrowed. Ji Xian's eyes narrowed from his words as he took out his academy plaque and looked at it for a long while, before replying, Xu Yao of rank 9 was suddenly kicked out of the top 16. Mu Chen is actually so daring to target a team of this level. Mu Feng exclaimed. Ji Xian's eyes flickered as he coldly smiled. Seems like he's trying to aim for the numero uno of the point rankings. How naive he is. What should we do, then? Mu Feng asked. We will start targeting the teams after the top 8 without any reservations. We will target them all. Ji Xian's cold voice rang out. Great. Mu Feng grinned. Ji Xian waved his hand, and just when he was about to move, his eyes narrowed before his hand could fully wave down. He slowly raised his head as he saw a light appearing from the mountain peak. Thereafter, the two leaders of the team were clearly in their sights. Wen Qingxian, Luo Li. When Mu Feng saw the two familiar figures, his face instantly changed. You guys don't have to harass the other teams now. Wen Qingxian laughed as she looked at Ji Xian. Thereafter, she tightened her grip on the war spear as she spoke, but then again, if you guys are eyeing on the points we have, then go for it. We'll see who'll be able to defeat the other. Ji Xian's face slowly turned icy. Mu Chen, what a good strategy. In just one day, there was a drastic change to the top 16 in the point rankings. Clearly, it had also caused a storm of commotion in this vast central region. They realized that aside from one team of the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy that was after rank 8, the rest of those that were in the top 16 after rank 8 were all kicked out of the point rankings. Those replacing them were powerful teams that had newly appeared. If it was just one or two teams, the changes might not attract that much attention. After all, the battle for points right now in the Great Spiritual Academy tournament was simply too intense. Even those powerful teams could be easily dragged down. However, when the changes were all at the same time, there would, without a doubt, be astonishments. Especially when they saw the team that was on rank 8 soaring on the point rankings at a terrifying speed. In the end, that team managed to surpass the rank 3, Wu Ling. When that team was able to stand firmly on rank 3, the exclamation of astonishment became heavier. At this point of time, even a retard could tell why those powerful teams were kicked out. The cause of this was the one that recently had his name spreading throughout the Great Spiritual Academy tournament, Mu Chen. That fella is abnormal. How could he defeat so many powerful teams in one day? Was he not afraid that he would meet with unexpected failure? The entire Great Spiritual Academy tournament was in a clamor. It was out of their imagination that Mu Chen would be insane to such an extent, to the point that he would place his targets onto those powerful teams. In addition, the terrifying fact was that he succeeded. In just one day, Mu Chen had defeated 7 teams that had experts of second-grade spirit disaster in them. The achievement made many others dumbstruck as his actions were a little insane. Was Mu Chen not afraid that those powerful teams would put up a life-and-death struggle that would result in his defeat? In this current situation, the instant Mu Chen was gravely injured, there would be many powerful teams aiming at him. Precisely so. That was the reason why those teams in the top 8 did not lay their hands on those teams, as they were afraid as well. They did not dare to try it, despite knowing that it was an efficient way of obtaining points. However, no one had expected that the method which they dared not to try was attempted by Mu Chen, and he succeeded. At a lonely peak, Wu Ling was looking at the team that had surpassed him on the academy plaque as he helplessly cast his lips aside. What is Mu Chen trying to do? Why did he suddenly go crazy? Is he trying to snatch the numero uno from Ji Xian? Wu Yingying, who was behind Wu Ling, said in doubt. That should be his objective. Wu Ling smiled. Didn't you notice that the efficiency rate of Ji Xian's team slowed down? I heard that they are under pressure at this moment. When Qingxian and Luo Li joined hands to obstruct Ji Xian. Although it is a little problematic for them to get rid of Ji Xian with their strength, there is nothing Ji Xian can do if the two of them are just intending to cause trouble for him. Ha ha, they are trying to give Mu Chen time. The grudges between those two has been fully unveiled. In the spiritual road, Ji Xian schemed against Mu Chen once, and this time, Mu Chen is returning the favor. However, Mu Chen must have a huge amount of exhaustion as well to challenge so many powerful teams in a day. If he is injured, the other powerful teams would definitely be eyeing him. Wu Yingying said worriedly. She was well aware that no matter how powerful Mu Chen was, there would definitely be a considerable amount of exhaustion for him to challenge so many powerful teams. Furthermore, Luo Li and Wen Qingxian weren't by his side at the moment. Thus, he was probably being targeted by many teams. Those powerful teams would definitely not allow Mu Chen to recover his strength. Therefore, this period of time was the most dangerous for their team. Right now, the difference between Ji Xian and Mu Chen's points is only around 20,000. Wu Yingying stared at the academy plaque. Ji Xian still held the numero uno with over 130,000 points, whereas Wen Qingxian occupied the second with 110,000 points. Mu Chen, on the other hand, was just a little lower compared to her. In just one day, Mu Chen managed to jump from rank 8 to 3, pulling the enormous distance between him and Ji Xian closer. His strategy half succeeded. Right now, he must be thinking about how to keep his points under his huge amount of exhaustion. Wu Ling said with a faint tone, perhaps Wen Qingxian and Luo Li are rushing over to protect Mu Chen right now to intimidate the other teams that are eyeing him. However, Ji Xian will definitely not allow them to successfully leave. Wu Yingying nodded her head as well. Mu Chen's current state might be the worst considering that the battles he had gone through. Wu Ling suddenly exclaimed as his gaze was focused, staring at the academy plaque. What is it? Wu Yingying hastily questioned. Finally, it seems that a powerful team could not hold it anymore. Wu Ling pointed towards the academy plaque. It was a familiar team that was rapidly approaching Mu Chen. That team was rank 6 on the point rankings, the team from the Nine Cauldron Spiritual Academy, with the captain being an ally of Ji Xian, Fang Yun. Fang Yun is going to attack Mu Chen. Wu Yingying's face instantly changed. Whoosh! Screeches of wind resounded in the blue sky. Mu Chen's figure rapidly flew with Shen Sangsheng, Li Xiantong, and the other two closely following behind. The spiritual energy ripples around them were a little chaotic at this moment. They defeated 7 powerful teams in one day. Although Mu Chen handled the strongest person in the opponent's team, Shen Sangsheng, and the rest dealt with the remaining enemies. Therefore, they had a huge amount of exhaustion. In addition to the lack of time, the spiritual energy within their bodies could not recover. At the same time, they did not dare to remain in one location for too long as they knew that there were many eyes staring at them. Shen Sangsheng looked at Mu Chen before him. Although the youth maintained a calm expression, he knew that Mu Chen had the greatest exhaustion as he ended his battles as soon as possible. Thus, he exhausted a lot of his strength. Mu Chen, Luo Li, and Wen Qingxian must have been hindered. Otherwise, their speed would not be so slow. Shen Sangsheng inhaled a mouthful of air as he said with a heavy voice, staring at the academy plaque. Mu Chen lightly nodded his head. Ji Xian wasn't someone that was easy to deal with. Knowing this, he definitely wouldn't let Luo Li's group leave and regroup with them so easily. We have to find a place to recover ourselves. Otherwise, we won't be able to last for long. Li Xiantong spoke with a heavy expression. I can feel that many teams are secretly approaching us. Yeah, follow me. When we reach there, our mission can be considered a success. Mu Chen nodded his head as he increased his speed. When Shen Sangsheng and Li Xiantong heard his words, their minds jolted as they quickly followed behind. The group of 5 traveled at a rapid speed. Along the way, they met some teams that were greedily looking at them. But because of Mu Chen's fearsome power, no one dared to obstruct them. As they traveled at rapid speed, Mu Chen's speed started to slow down after half an hour. The end of his sight was a pitch-black forest. The forest was vast and covered with spiked trees with a peculiar ripple lingering within. Those thorny trees shaped this forest similarly to a hedgehog. This forest wasn't unfamiliar at all, it was the spiked trees forest of the Divine Wood Mountain. In this forest, there was the hidden spiritual courtyard. This was Mu Chen's destination, since he knew that the power of this forest was able to seal spiritual energy. Anyone that went in could not use their spiritual energy. Thus, if they could go in, they would be thoroughly safe. As long as no one bothered them, they would be able to recover their energy. When they had thoroughly recovered, those eyeing fellows would no longer be able to target them anymore. Go in. Mu Chen made a gesture towards his team. The 4 people rejoiced as they increased their speed and was about to enter the spike forest. Careful. However, just when they was about to land, Mu Chen's face suddenly changed as his body flashed, appearing right at the front as black lightning exploded off him. Boom! Boom! A shocking spiritual energy swept out from a mountain peak as it heavily bombarded Mu Chen. Black lightning flickered as it withstood the bombardment. However, Mu Chen's figure slightly trembled. His gaze was dark as he stared at the mountain peak. There were several people at the location and the one leading was familiar to him, Feng Yun of the 9 Cauldron Spiritual Academy. Feng Yun was holding onto a divine cauldron, glittering with spiritual light as he looked at Mu Chen with a smile hung on his face. Captain Mu Chen, I have been waiting here for quite some time. This episode ends here. Thanks you for watching.